In my last video, I shared with you how I made this design, and I did decide to frame it in one of my old frames that I had in my collection. And so I thought I'd show you how I went about doing my frame, because I thought you might think that was interesting, so that you know that when you make something, if you want to frame it, you can. This is 5x7, so I got a 5x7 frame. Now I've already painted my frame. It was a gold frame. It had a little bit of gold highlights to it. And so what I used, I totally painted this, and I painted it with Distress Paint Walnut Stain. And it needs a second coat on the sides. As you can see, I've got some places that need to be repainted. So that's my base color. And then the next thing I decided is I wanted to highlight it. And if you look, you can see how it's kind of green there at the top. I tested some of my Distress crayons. And the one that I came up with that I liked the best set, I'm not even sure what this one is, but I know it's the Halloween one. And it has, and I like this because it has a little bit of iridescence to it. So it's Hocus Pocus and Crooked Broomstick and Bubbling Cauldron. And Bubbling Cauldron is the one I used, but I also used a second set up at the top, and that's not this one. Let me get that really fast. All right, so the second set, and I'm not even sure, I think this one's a Christmas one. Nope, this is Halloween, set number 4. This must have something, this one doesn't say what set, so it must be the first set. So what I used in this one was Decayed. So again, this is set number 4, and I used Decayed, and what I did was I simply went across the highest raised area. Now you can do this with any, as long as it has some design and texture to it, you know, raised up areas of your frame. So at the top I went ahead and I just colored across the top, the raised part, like that, all the way around. And it's just the top part that I did. You can do it any way you want to, it's just plain. And then I went back in and I just rubbed that in with my finger. And I think you can see some of that highlights as I'm doing that. And if you don't want it to be really chunky, you could even go back in there with a brush and get some of that out if you want to. But I'm just using my finger all the way around and rubbing that in. I really wanted more of a gold look, but I did not want it to be the gold that it was originally on my frame. I wanted it to be more subtle because I am making a woodland scene. And so that's why I wanted to do it that way. So again, that was Decayed. Now I'm going to be using Bubbling Cauldron. And what I'm going to do with that is the inside design. I'm just going to go ahead and rub, make sure I have a little bit more of that crayon showing. I'm just going to go ahead and rub the inside, as you can see, all the way around. And this makes a really subtle frame. It just adds a little bit more detail. I've already done this up at the top. I'm going to add a little bit more. All right, so I do the exact same thing, super simple, and I just go back in here and rub that. And you can take it away too, because this is water-based, so you can come back in here if you want to. It's like using a wax, but it's not, because this is water-based. So you can come back in here and take it away with water a little bit if you think you've got too much. So that's kind of like what I ended up doing with that frame, and I think that's super cool. All right, so make sure I don't have too much stuff on my finger. The next thing you'd have to do is actually put the frame back together if you're going to put more on. And I'm going to put some, what I want to call it, this is a wood frame also, although you could use a plastic frame if it's got the details to it. It really wouldn't matter because the paint is supposed to stick to plastic, and it's supposed to stick to, I gotta make sure I get this in here right. It's supposed to stick to metal, so it's supposed to be really cool. All right, I think oops, there we go. So that's dropped in. So I'm gonna get my picture put in there. Well, I'm going to have to trim that. This is good for you to see so that you know how to put this in. I'm just going to trim the top, and I'm going to trim the top because I have a little bit of excess up here at the top. I don't want to trim the bottom. So I'm just going to trim a little bit off. Just a tiny, tiny bit. And that should fit in. Sometimes these older frames aren't exact. I have a little bit of a lip, as you can see, so it's okay if I cut it. Just don't want to cut it too short. And that should fit. Yay. I'm going to double check. I'm going to hold that with my hand so it doesn't fall out. Yep, that's going to work. I probably could have almost added some of the patina, salvaged patina, to go with, on the frame, to go with my picture. All right, so you can see I got this from Goodwill. I only paid 99 cents for that. I don't need to take that off right now. But I have a hook so that it can be framed and hung up that way, or I can set it out on my shelf. And I like to put stuff in my craft room. So I have a lot of things on my wall. All right, so we've got that all put in. I'm gonna double check one more time. I like to do that. And there's the reason why. You see all this stuff in there? That's why I always have to double check. Because I hate getting this thing all put together, only to find I have stuff that I have to take out. So let's check that. Sorry about that, but you know, it's how it goes. All right, so there's nothing on my thing. It's totally on my glass. And lots of times I will clean my glass with a cleaner before I even do this. And I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't do that because it is an old frame. All right, start over again. Make sure we get that all put in the right way. And I can see that it is shorter. But again, I have that lip. So as long as that doesn't move, I'm good. And I try to make it so it doesn't. I know everybody, you might not want to watch this, but you know, it helps you to see the little things you can do to adjust. All right, check it one more time. All right, those pieces are gone. So now what I do is I just push those down to secure it. And all frames are different with what they have to hold in your backing. So now we're good, and we've got that frame. And like I said, I can see from this, I probably should add a little bit of patina to that. I don't know that they made that patina one yet. So I'm going to stop the video for a second, and I'm going to go check to see what I do have in my stash. Okay, I'm super excited. Turns out I did have the one with salvaged patina. And I'm trying to see if there's a number or anything on this one. I don't, again, see anything to tell you. It does have salvaged patina in it, and you can take a look. I'm going to give you some other colors so that you know. Prize ribbon, kitsch familiar. I can't even talk. Kitsch flamingo, and so these are all the newer ones. Let's see here. This one's rustic wilderness, and let's see, crackling campfire, and we have speckled eggs. So that's the newer one. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and take that and just add a little bit of that to some of my frame. Because I want that color to come out to match up with what I did in my design. And so I'm just, as you can see, I'm just dotting some of these designs. Again, just look at your frames and figure out how you can adjust to go with. So it looks like it's the flowers of this design, but it's so fun to look at frames and say, oh, how can I change this frame, alter this frame, give it new life. I love recycling. So that adds my color that I needed. And again, I'm just going to rub that in with my finger. And that just gives me a little bit of the patina to match that up. Okay. While I've been doing this, I have been heating my hot glue gun, because I'm going to add, which is why I already added this to my frame, I'm going to add some foliage to the top. And I pulled out some things again from my stash I had. Sorry about this light. Let's see if I can turn this light up a bit. Okay, it's raining outside and I have to have the light on or we wouldn't be able to see hardly anything. So there's a couple things I pulled from my stash. Let me move this out of the way so you can actually see it. And this has a little bit of the patina in it, so that's going to help too. I have stuff all over my finger. And I also pulled some greenery like fir tree. And I also had these little bubbles. So I'm going to use the little bubbles. So it doesn't really look like Christmas. It just looks like it's more of a forest type scene. So in order to do that, I pulled out my wire cutters. So I haven't done this yet, so we'll see how it goes. I never just use things the way they are. I cut them apart. And for this one, there we go. Very simple. I don't think I'm going to use a lot, but I am going to use some around the edge. And I'm just going to do the corner. I always save this stuff. You can find things, again, lots of times at your charity stores, and you can just cut them apart. You don't have to use them the way they are. Lots of times people get rid of their old arrangements, and you can just go ahead and use them. I'm just trying to see how I want to do this. I think I'm just going to go ahead and cut these individually. And there's not really any wire in these as it turns out anyway. I could just use scissors. I could probably have pulled most of them off. So I'm just showing you, I'm going to pull some. I've got 3, I think that's good. And this one piece has a acorn on it. I think I'm going to cut that off too. I like it. So there we go. We have some stuff. Now I'm going to get my glue gun. I've got this really cool glue gun that is it's wireless, not wireless. It is cordless, not wireless. That'd be cool. And I'm just going to go ahead and start putting hot glue on here. Like I said, I'm just going to do the corner, but I'm going to make it 2 so that it can still set if I want to set it on a shelf instead of putting it on the wall. So I'm just going to hold up for a second, just so it stays. All right. And I want to get this one so that it's coming up from, so it can sit. Which way I want to do that one? This piece is a little bit longer. Don't want to cover that up too much. But let's see here. I think that's going to still work, because I can move this. Yep, we're going to do it like that. I'm not gluing on the glass. I'm gluing on the frame. Just put a bunch more by this. I'm just holding that down just for a second. You know hot glue goes pretty quickly. All right, so I want to cover those up a little bit, so I'm going to add this to it. I think that's going to work. I'm going to get a little bit closer. I'm sorry, I should have been a little bit closer to that anyway. There we go. I'm just going to add these, and how I'm going to do that is I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on that. That works there. I'm just trying to cover up that center a little bit. I'm getting little strings for my hot glue. All right. Put a little bit of glue again on the end of this. Okay. I might end up using that extra one after all, we'll see. Alrighty. Because I think I'm going to put the acorn right there. So that's good. The acorn will go right there, but I'm going to add this up to give it a little bit of height, a little bit of more interest up here. Okay. Alright, that's going to go underneath. And again, this is also a good time of the year to try to see if they have any leftover greenery. I usually try to do that around Christmas time, and I didn't this year, but it's always a good time. Okay, let's add that acorn. I'm putting glue on the end of that again, so that it can cover up a little bit of that. There we go. And that's going to be a little bit of our greenery at the bottom there, so that I can set that out, or that I can put it on the wall if I want to. Let's pull that up and we take a look. Get that light out of there as best we can. And that's what that's going to look like. Now, if you really did want to make this more Christmassy, you could add some red and add some red to your frame around if you wanted to do that. So that's going to be our look. I know it took a little bit of time, but I wanted you to see what it looks like if you add greenery and you add a frame to any of your designs. You know what? I still have this little piece. I'm tempted to add that to that down there. I think it balances it off. So you know how it goes. You get so far and you go, oh, I need to add this. I'm sure you have a lot of ideas you could do yourself and just, you know, add that. I think, yep, that's what I'm going to do, is add that little piece down there. And I've got that all used. So just think of how you can add all your greenery stuff that you already have in your stash. Or like I said, just go to the charity shop and buy something that somebody doesn't want anymore and take it apart. I think that works. So again, thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's something that you can do, finish off your projects. Just grab some of your stuff that you actually have in your stash, or go to the charity shop. Thanks so much.